So, the big moment has finally arrived. Beto is off the fence. That calls for some music, guys. That's right. Beto's in. Oh, kickflip, bong rip. Beto is in. So exciting. I know everybody is very excited. The millennials are so raucous that they just smoked a larger joint than usual. The progressives are so into it that they looked at Beto and then went, nah, we're going to go with Bernie. The moderates looked at Beto and they're like, he's like young Joe Biden. Wow, how impressive. Beto O'Rourke. Okay, let's start with Beto's announcement. So yesterday, he is featured on the cover of Vanity Fair magazine. This tells you everything you need to know about Beto O'Rourke. If your announcement is essentially made on the cover of Vanity Fair magazine, we know what you are. You're a white elite liberal. Okay, that is what you are. And the reason that the media love themselves some Beto, the real reason the media love Beto, is because they look at Beto and they see themselves. They look at Beto and what they see is a white kid who grew up extraordinarily privileged in a rich situation, who spent a few years kicking around before he found himself and settled down, who has broadly liberal views, left-leaning views, but likes to think through the issues, is really considered and temperate, but also cool, like the cool guy whose kids think he's cool. Also a little bit nerdy, but really mostly just cool, and like a guy you'd want to hang out with and be with. Basically, when the folks at CNN look in a mirror, they see Beto O'Rourke. And that is why they love Beto O'Rourke. The same thing is true over at MSNBC. When Chris Hayes looks in a mirror, he sees Beto O'Rourke. And that's why all of the media are in love with Beto. When they looked at Barack Obama, it was even better because Barack Obama mirrored all of those things except for the race, so they could say they were intersectional. And also, Barack Obama mirrored who they think they are, the considered politician who really likes to think through the issues and then comes up with sophisticated analyses, who spent a few years kicking around until he found himself helping the downtrodden. That's how folks in the journalistic world like to see themselves, all the people who went to NYU journalism school. All those people see themselves as Beto O'Rourke, which is why every fawning profile of Beto O'Rourke is written by the same former NYU English grad who is sitting in a crappy apartment in Brooklyn overlooking an alleyway in which a bum is pissing into a trash can. Every one of these profiles is written with this sopping, I'm writing the great American novel attitude. So the Vanity Fair piece in which Beto essentially declares his presidential run is no different. The cover of the magazine, if you can't see it, is Beto standing in the only shirt he apparently owns. Every picture I've ever seen of Beto O'Rourke, he is wearing this blue kind of beat-up shirt because he's a man of the people, despite the fact that he's worth $9 million and his wife is the daughter of a near billionaire and his father was an extraordinarily powerful county judge. There he is, man of the people, standing in jeans across a lonely road in Texas and just standing there considering his future. Maybe he'll take out a guitar, flick his bangs out of his eyes and play you a ballad, yeah. Okay, so Vanity Fair has his profile, and the profile is just as pathetically drooling over Beto O'Rourke because all of these profiles of Beto O'Rourke are the same. Sure, he has no ideas. Sure, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Sure, he's never done anything of real importance. But Beto O'Rourke is a man who likes to think through issues and consider them. And he'll take your point of view into consideration. And Beto O'Rourke is the guy that apparently a lot of suburban women are into. And he was the guy in high school who a lot of the girls were into. Why? Because he was the guy who seemed deep, but it turns out that he seemed deep because he was a mirror. Meaning it looked like there was depth to him, but he was just mirroring back to you what you wanted to hear. And that is basically what Beto O'Rourke has been for his entire political career. And the media love this. They love it. So this Vanity Fair article in which he was photographed by Annie Leibovitz, the article was written by Joe Hagan, who is just the same as every other columnist who has ever written about Beto O'Rourke. There's a great thread someone put together on Twitter of all of the physical descriptions that the media have given to Beto O'Rourke. He's sweating because of his passion, like he's playing great rock in a hot stadium. And then there's talk about how he's just relaxed, leaning back, looking wistfully at the world. Every description of Beto O'Rourke is exactly the same because everybody who's writing it is exactly the same. So this entire Vanity Fair piece, it's got pictures of Beto sitting with his dog looking forlornly at the camera like, why am I here? What am I doing here? That's the best part of every one of these pictures is the dog just in the background looking like, I can't believe this is my life now. Anyway, here's what Vanity Fair writes about Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke's mission-style home in the El Paso neighborhood of Sunset Heights is the site of a famous 1915 meeting between Mexican revolutionary Pancho Villa and U.S. General Hugh Scott. While renovating it, O'Rourke had a wrought iron fence around the property removed, save for a few feet of it around a pistachio tree. In late February, he came home to find Republican protesters live streaming video and asking why he still had a fence, mimicking Trump's remark that politicians like walls when they're around their own homes. I said, "Come up with me, and I'll take you to our front door," he recalls. "This is just decorative fencing." "Why do you have walls in your house?" they retorted. "Why do you have a door?" Okay, that's true. Behind the door, in the O'Rourke living room, and here is where we get into the deep heart of the media's love for Beto. Behind the door, in the O'Rourke living room, a floor-to-ceiling bookshelf contains a section for rock memoirs, Bob Dylan's Chronicles, a favorite. Okay, and a stack... God, the pretentiousness of people who sit around reading Bob Dylan's Chronicles cannot be overstated. A stack of LPs, The Clash, Nina Simone, but also a sizable collection of presidential biographies, including Robert Caro's work on Lyndon B. Johnson. I love that this means that he's a sophisticate. Again, all of the members of the media who love Beto O'Rourke consider Beto O'Rourke one of them. That's why they love him. Hey, look, I also have Bob Dylan's Confessions or Chronicles on my shelf. Also, when I was in high school, I liked The Clash. And I also liked to skateboard a little bit, or at least I wished I had. Most of the kids in the media are actually the fat kid who is sitting with the typewriter in the AV room, but they wish they were Beto. Beto was the kid they always wished they had been. Arranged in historical order, the biographies suggest there's been some reflection on the gravity of the presidency, but there's also some political poetry to it, a sense that O'Rourke might be destined for this shelf. He has an aura. Oh, don't describe to me his aura. First of all, the rigorous party of science describing politicians with an aura. Good stuff right there from Vanity Fair. It is worth noting here that the same members of the media who have spent years at this point praising Beto O'Rourke and overlooking the fact that he lives in a 3-story house in El Paso and is worth $9 million, almost none of which came from him, presumably, or at least was made really only through family connections. That Beto O'Rourke is somehow a man of the people, but Howard Schultz, the head of Starbucks, there's a big article in the New York Times today about how Howard Schultz isn't as poor as he said he was when he was growing up. Howard Schultz has said that he grew up in the projects. There's a big article in the New York Times today. Well, you know, the project he grew up in was actually kind of middle class. So obviously he's a liar. Okay, now do Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, guys. Now do Beto. Not going to happen. O'Rourke and his wife, Amy, an educator 9 years his junior, both described the moment they first witnessed the power of O'Rourke's gift. It was in Houston, the third stop on O'Rourke's 2-year Senate campaign against Ted Cruz. Every seat was taken, every wall, every space in the room was filled with probably 1,000 people. You could feel the floor moving almost. It was not totally clear that Beto was what everyone was looking for, but just like that, people were so ready for something. So that was totally shocking. I mean, like, took my breath away shocking. And then Beto says, "I honestly don't know how much of it was me." It's a rockumentary. It's a rock, I mean, this is political Spinal Tap, guys. It is a rock documentary in which Beto O'Rourke plays a fake political candidate on TV. "I honestly don't know of it. How much was me? But there is something abnormal, super normal, or I don't know what the hell to call it, that we both experience when we're out on the campaign trail." He says, "I don't ever prepare a speech. I don't write out what I'm going to say. I remember driving to that. I was like, what do I say? Maybe I'll just introduce myself. I'll take questions." I got in there, and I don't know if it's a speech or not, but it felt amazing because every word was pulled out of me, like by some greater force, which was the people there. The people are the force. I am the people. The people are me. Give me another rip on that bong, bro. That's quality weed. He's so obnoxious. I'm sorry. He's so obnoxious. And again, the media fawning over this guy as though he's a self-made man, as though he's a person who came out of nowhere. Here is Beto O'Rourke's life story. Okay, we're going to do Beto O'Rourke. You know what? Hold on. One more quote from Beto O'Rourke, then we'll get to Beto O'Rourke's life story, which the media love because this is the media's life story. Most of them grew up middle class to upper class in big cities, growing up with a lot of privilege, and then they found themselves, and now they see themselves as purveyors of the truth who are broadly liberal-minded. And they look at Beto and they're like, yeah, that guy's me. Beto O'Rourke was a useless person for most of his life, and then he became non-useless later on in his life. And we are supposed to think of that as a spiritual journey, or in any other context, we would think of that as a person wasting opportunity. Really. So, final quote from Beto O'Rourke before we get to his short biography. He says, "There's something that happens to me," he says, or that I get to be a part of in those rooms. That is not like normal life. I don't know if that has ever happened to me before. I don't know if that would happen again. Wow, what an amazing, amazing guy. And we're going to get to his political announcement in just 1 second, which is filled with this sort of platitudinous garbage. Okay, so Vanity Fair ushers in Beto, and again, that tells you everything you need to know. The entire circulation base of Vanity Fair is upper-class white women. That is everyone who subscribes to Vanity Fair, and that's who Beto is going for. So here is Beto's announcement. First of all, we should note, Beto's a liar. Like 1 year ago, Beto said that he would not run for president. So let's just play him saying he's not going to run for president, and then we'll play him saying he'll run for president.
I'm not looking at 2020, and in fact, I'm completely ruling that out. Not going to do that.
No matter what, win or lose, you're not going to run in 2020.
Win or lose, I'm not running in 2020 I got to tell you, it's incredibly flattering that anyone would ask me the question, or that's even up for discussion. But since people have asked, the answer is no.
Zip. Fast forward to today. Beto O'Rourke, his announcement.
Amy and I are happy to share with you that I'm running to serve you as the next president of the United States of America. This is a defining moment of truth for this country and for every single one of us. The challenges that we face right now, the interconnected crises in our economy, our democracy, and our climate have never been greater, and they will either consume us or they will afford us the greatest opportunity to unleash the genius of the United States of America. We can begin by fixing our democracy and ensuring that our government works for everyone. This is going to be a positive campaign that seeks to bring out the very best from every single one of us, that seeks to unite a very divided country. There's a lot more to come, but I want to leave you with this. The only way for us to live up to the promise of America is to give it our all and to give it for all of us.
What does that
truly
even
now,
mean?
more than ever,
What does that even mean? For us to give us our all and give us all of us and all of our all and all of us. And here are some spiritual camp band leader hands. Woo! Check this out. God, Beto O'Rourke. Okay, so we're going to get to Beto's bio now, because here is the thing about this. The media have proclaimed for years that what is the real problem in America is the problem of rich white privilege. That is the problem in America. So it is good to know that finally, for the first time in a long time, a rich white man growing up in a rich, powerful white family and marrying a very rich white woman and spending years playing in a punk rock band uselessly can also be president of the United States. And that's good. America has grown, guys. You got that? A rich white guy who married a rich white lady and has run for office and failed in an attempt for Senate. Finally, a person like that can be president of the United States. Slow clap, America. Well done. It's going to be fun to watch as all the intersectional Democrats in the media suddenly embrace Beto O'Rourke, who's presumably the least intersectional candidate of all time, a man who calls himself Beto, but who is whiter than I am by a long shot. So let's go through who is Beto McO'Rourke. Who is Beto O'Rourke? So Beto O'Rourke is a fellow who was born in El Paso, Texas, to an extraordinarily powerful family. So his father was, in fact, a powerful local Democratic politician. His father was named Pat O'Rourke. He was nicknamed Beto in infancy because he grew up in El Paso. His mother was the stepdaughter of the former Secretary of the Navy under President John F. Kennedy, and his dad served as county commissioner and county judge. Pat O'Rourke was also a close associate of the Texas governor. So obviously, Beto grew up in very difficult circumstances. Now, little Beto was growing up really on the rough streets of El Paso. He began his education at the Escuela Montessori del Valle Preschool and continued to Rivera Elementary School and Mesita Elementary School. And then he went to the Woodbury Forest School, an all-male boarding school in Madison County, Virginia, just like all the underprivileged little kids. Between graduating high school and starting college, he was a summer congressional intern in the Capitol Hill office of U.S. Congressperson Ron Coleman. Then he went to Columbia University, where in junior year he captained Columbia's heavyweight rowing crew. I mean, is this an intersectional inspiring story, or is it an intersectional inspiring story? He graduated with a BA in English literature, which means that he was qualified to be a professional useless person, which, fortunately, is a job he has fulfilled. Well, he's also been arrested a couple of times, but he's been arrested for cool kid stuff, right? Cool kid stuff so long as you happen to be well connected. So he was arrested back in 1995 for breaking into the University of Texas El Paso campus. He was arrested for burglary. His misdemeanor was then waived. And of course, as everybody knows, he was also arrested in 1998 for a misdemeanor DWI after he was driving so drunk that he actually crossed the median line and crashed into somebody apparently head on and then fled the scene of the arrest. So Beto O'Rourke, really making the most of his youthful opportunities. His dad, by the way, had his own political issues as well. His father apparently was, in 1983, sheriff's deputies installing a radio in the Jeep of Pat O'Rourke, his dad, found a condom filled with a white powder believed to be either cocaine or heroin. According to press reports at the time, a sheriff's captain then ordered the substance destroyed and was indicted by a grand jury on charges of official misconduct and tampering with evidence. So that's Beto O'Rourke's dad, right? That's the family in which he grew up. The kind of family where if sheriff's deputies find a full condom filled with cocaine in your truck, they destroy it for you. Clearly, Beto was on a path to self-made success. O'Rourke's public life started in 2005, according to the Houston Chronicle, when at the age of 32, he ran for city council and became one of El Paso's youngest ever representatives. That was the same year he married Amy Hoover Sanders. Amy O'Rourke was an educator and charter school executive. She is a constant presence at his Senate campaign events. In 2006, the personal became very public for the O'Rourke family. Just a year into O'Rourke's council tenure, he became enmeshed in a controversial urban renewal plan led by the Paso del Norte Group, a nonprofit business organization spearheaded by his father-in-law. So you have to understand that between the time that Beto O'Rourke graduated from Columbia University and the time that he decided that he was going to be a local politician, he played for years in a punk rock band. So his great claim to fame is that he didn't need money enough that he could actually afford to blow several years running around the country playing in a crappy punk rock band. He also worked as a live-in caretaker and an art mover. He's basically Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, grew up extraordinarily privileged, extraordinarily wealthy, and then was best known for being like an elementary school PE teacher, and then became prime minister because he was handsome Bernie Sanders. That's basically Beto's shtick. So O'Rourke worked as a nanny and an art mover before working for an internet service provider, and that's when he started talking about how he didn't know what he wanted to do with his life, man. Just would brood. I'd just sit there and I'd brood. Remember several weeks back, there was an entire New York Times article about Beto's brooding, how he was brooding now, just like he brooded then, because we love people who brood. They're so dark and meaningful. As opposed to people who actually have purpose in their lives, who just go out and do. Beto had the privilege of being able to sit around and brood, which in other circumstances we would call intellectual and moral laziness. In any case, Beto returns to El Paso in 1998, and then he co-founds something called Stanton Street Technology Group. His wife, Amy, operates the business now. He also published an online newspaper called Stanton Street, which he modeled on the Village Voice. And then he decided that he was going to run for city council. And that's where things started to get dicey for young Beto when it came to his public career. In 2006, he became enmeshed in a controversial urban renewal plan led by Paso del Norte Group, a nonprofit business organization spearheaded by his father-in-law. As originally envisioned, the plan called for redeveloping a blighted part of downtown El Paso, including a largely Hispanic residential area called Segundo Barrio. Opponents feared gentrification and dubbed it urban removal. So this was young Beto getting involved in non-intersectionality. He was going to redevelop parts of El Paso. But there is a bigger problem for young Beto. Residents and business owners facing displacement organized and filed a pair of ethics complaints with the city, citing O'Rourke's ties with his father-in-law, William Sanders, who is a real estate executive in Texas. They complained that O'Rourke was, quote, impermissibly entangled in the Paso del Norte Group's downtown revitalization plan through both family and business ties. His critics, as according to the Houston Chronicle, homed in on past work O'Rourke's tech company had done for Paso del Norte, as well as his vote to approve the group's downtown 2015 redevelopment plan. O'Rourke had been a dues-paying member of Paso del Norte, though he dropped out soon after being elected to the council. Eventually, the Ethics Review Commission dismissed the complaints. And they said it because even if it was true, it wouldn't be a technical violation of ethics ordinances. But opponents argued that O'Rourke's daddy-in-law stood to make millions through a real estate investment trust called the Borderplex Community Trust, which was formed to buy real estate in downtown El Paso for redevelopment. And they would have aggressively used the city's eminent domain powers, which is hilarious because now Beto O'Rourke stands around talking about how President Trump is going to have to aggressively use eminent domain powers to build a wall. That's very bad. It wasn't quite as bad when his father-in-law was seeking to do it for redevelopment purposes. And we'll get into more of Beto O'Rourke's sterling political career, the sort of thing that really has launched 1,000 ships, the sort of thing where the media just can't help themselves. We'll get to more of that in just a second.